Hi, this is Sarah from sarahbuckland.com and Facebook Numbers Queen, and I am with the very amazing Sarah Buckland. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi.
So I'm very happy to have you on the call. How do you like to introduce yourself in the work that you do?
Well, I am an educational therapist that works specifically with young autistic children, and I use it's basically bringing a therapeutic approach to education.
And when you say young, like what age range is that generally?
Anywhere between 3 and 9 years old. But there's a lot more children that I'm starting to work with who are under the age of 7.
Interesting.
Who require intervention, yeah.
Are you talking about like from mild to, quite strong, or is like there a place that you tend to specialise?
Yeah, I tend to specialise with children who have higher needs, complex needs within the family. So I use a more family-centred approach. So it's very much, obviously at that age I need to work with the family, but it's very much around engaging with the parents as well, and then watching what I do and how I work. But that early intervention is what I suppose I'm most passionate about, and it's quite a powerful time to be working with young children, and also using that one-to-one, which is how I work with children. I'm not in a small group, and it is able to bring about some amazing progress at that age.
Yeah, well, they talk about how if you know a child at 7, you kind of know them as a grown-up. Those first 7 years when they've just landed and they're fresh.
Yeah.
It's super powerful time to be able to connect with them. So I'll just mention how I know you. So I know I've known you for almost a year.
Yeah.
And we've worked together a little bit, and very interested in what you do. And I seem to recall in the last session I did with you, we talked about there would be this kind of swarm coming, and then I think COVID hit.
Yeah.
And there's been so much interest because now people are literally like at home with their kids, like pretty big time, aren't they?
Yeah.
So all just really needing to be confronted and integrated lovingly.
Yeah.
Now, we know from your date of birth, which obviously we're keeping private, that you have a 42/6 path. So the 6th chakra, which you're healing in this lifetime, is the third eye, higher vision, imagination, the mind. So you're here to open mind, open eyes, heal skepticism, help people to see a better future, but also to see their own inner and outer beauty. There's often a lot of social justice and environmental consciousness with the 6th energy.
Yep.
So just out of interest, what happened to you around these life path turning points of 42 and when you were much younger, when you were about 6?
Well, leading up to 42, I mean, I've been a fairly quiet person in my life and have maybe found it challenging to find my voice at times.
Yeah.
And at 42, I seem to have found my voice. And when you're a quiet and shy child, I do remember not being listened to or heard. And at 42, my voice got a little bit louder and stronger, and I was quite surprised that people started to listen to my voice and to what I had to say.
I got full body goosebumps. It started raining here and I felt very emotional. So I feel like that's definitely it.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, isn't it, that as we believe in ourselves, there's this tipping point where people will start to give us that time of day, give us that space that we need, because we're finally kind of giving that to ourselves. And so were there any physical changes in your lifestyle around those times, 42 or 6?
Yeah, we moved to the Blue Mountains in New South Wales. So we moved from Sydney, and it was I had a very strong feeling to move out of Sydney when we did. It wasn't it wasn't a growing sensation. It was almost like a sense of urgency around this,
Yeah.
to move
Spiritual
out.
calling.
What's that?
Spiritual. Sometimes I say it's like a spiritual calling. I had that when
Yeah.
I was sitting on a train in Thailand and met
Yeah.
someone from Brisbane, and I was like, oh, they have mangoes there and everyone speaks English, and I have a feeling I have a husband there. I moved back from Thailand. I was going to say,
Yeah.
like, what part of Sydney were you in? Because I'm from Sydney as well.
We moved from the inner west,
Mm.
and for me, I get easily overwhelmed by sounds and people, amounts of people. So when we started to investigate which areas, would suit us as a family, we were, before my husband, was drawn to much quieter places, where we'd feel more connected to the land, and also be able to experience that connection to a community. So we took a risk coming here because we didn't know the community, but as soon as we drove up here and we had a short holiday, it certainly felt right for my husband, and it certainly felt right for me. And the children were just, I could just see a really positive change in them when they were here in this environment. And so that really made it, kind of validated that this was definitely an option for us.
Yeah, it almost felt like you were talking about why you chose to come to Earth.
Yeah.
The children and the beauty and the people. And it's interesting in the spiritual movement, some people, it's almost a bit trendy to say, oh, it's my last lifetime, or can't wait to go back to my home planet. But in some ways it's a abdication of responsibility, because Earth is one of the most beautiful places, I think, in the whole universe. But yeah, absolutely glorious people and animals and feelings and colors. So it sounds like, that change in surroundings was very kind to yourself. And it also feels like to me that a lot of your work is about being more gentle, the one-on-one approach, getting the family involved, not pushing uphill so much, because it is strange, isn't it, to take little children and put them in a box with other little children without perhaps, as much support as they used to get in the villages and things. And, that's only happened in a few generations.
Yeah.
They didn't, from my understanding, because I have a background in outdoor and environmental education, that's more how they were taught. No ceilings and plenty of things to look at and poke. And
yeah, I mean, what I find works with the children that find me, these are sensitive children who require a very gentle approach, and it's my job to meet the child where they're at in their developmental journey, and that is a difficult job to locate where they're at. But that is my job, and I take it very seriously. And I believe that is the job of a teacher. And when you have been given that responsibility, I ensure that actually happens for that child and for the family.
I can really feel that with you. So what do you love about working with kids who have these special needs? Because obviously that's a very precise thing to choose to do with your time in this body. What do you really love about it?
Well, first of all, I didn't really seek it, actually. It found
loved you first.
Yeah, it did. So it's funny when I get asked those questions, I sometimes forget that I work with children with special needs. It's more of children who are very sensitive, who are very honest, and there's a level of transparency there, where if something's not liked, I know it straight away. If something is liked, I know it straight away. And being able to work with children who will show you that straight away, it's just so much easier. There is that fragility there of that child that comes with this territory of working with autistic children in particular. And that, need to take very good care of that child as well. But that is something that I feel very strongly about. And I think I'm drawn to that because, getting back to my voice not being heard as a child, even though I'm not autistic, I remember not having a voice and not being heard. And these children that I'm working with are also used to not being heard, especially within in a system like the school system. And I've worked in the school system, and it's a hard place as a teacher, and it's also a hard place as a child if you do have if you are autistic, or if you have developmental needs. But I think I understand what it's like to have people not understand you completely.
Yeah, totally makes sense. So can you give an example of like an issue that people would come to you with a lot? Like, you know, what do people often bring up with you? And, you know, what's the kind of results of, I guess, outcomes that you sometimes see after working with them and working with their families?
What normally happens when people come to me is that, you know, they've tried a more formal approach, you know, through, you know, certain health professionals, and that hasn't worked. A more clinical approach hasn't worked.
Sure.
And a lot of parents say, well, no one's really seen my child's capabilities, and I've heard that that's what you do, and that's and it usually, it always comes through recommendations, because people talk about these kinds of things, especially within a close-knit community like ours. And what I find is that by working the way that I do, one-to-one, first of all, I mean, there's a lot of background work as well. So I really look very closely at what the child needs, what the family needs. And before I start working, I have a very clear plan in place. And that comes a lot from the families as well. And then through the techniques that I use, I'm able to start to develop some of those parts to the child's developmental journey that hasn't really been able to be supported before. So I'm able to see progress, and also an enjoyment in engaging in education, because for some children that has bad connotations, you know, being in education.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting in numerology, learn has the same vibration as life, and to be human, to be here, is to be constantly exposed to opportunities to change and upgrade and accelerate. But if at some point you get traumatized, you've got nowhere to go. You know, you can't go backwards, can't go forwards. You kind of end up in this floating state. It sounds like, you know, a lot of what you do is that you see the unseen. And it's interesting, you know, just the same way it only takes one person to say to someone that they're beautiful or they're loved, and then to have a lot of transformation happen. Sometimes you just need to be seen once fully in your glory, and then so many things will just start to automatically like update or improve, because you're coming from a place that you're okay. So it's almost like you're seeking that, whether you call it a divine part of themselves or a whole part of themselves that hasn't given up, that still wants to learn, that still wants to go up.
Yeah, I'm yet to meet a child that has not knocked my socks off. You know, and unfortunately sometimes when the child's in a very formal setting, and, you know, with all the assessments, it's very hard to get a very clear picture of the child. But I get the great job of, you know, of seeing the child for who they are and where they're at. And when you work in the way that I'm working with them, you really get to see these capabilities of the children, because they feel relaxed, they feel safe, and they're enjoying what they're doing. And I know for me, you know, I remember even as a child when I was learning, if I felt safe and if I felt heard and if I was encouraged and I knew that someone was truly caring for me, then I remember blossoming. I remember that feeling, and I tap into that when I'm working with children. I ensure that I make sure that they also feel that.
Yeah, it feels like it felt a little bit like Quidditch for a while when we were talking. You know, this idea of like almost like seeking, you know, what really makes this child tick, what would really get them engaged in their learning again. And then it felt like a butterfly sitting on the end of your finger, and how if you chase the butterfly, you could actually hurt the butterfly or drive it away. But if you just are really present and available, and you know, you believe that it can be done, that the butterfly will come and sit on your finger, and you know, like a little child sitting on your lap, you know, like that. Because you know, it's obvious, Sarah, that you trust yourself, and so there's that possibility for people to learn to retrust themselves around you.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is partly come from things like you said, like listening to your voice and moving territories and seeing life from a different perspective, seeing how good it can be when you don't compromise.
Well, I think I like to think that I'm here to revolutionize the way that we do things as well. I'm quite happy to be that person who shakes things up a little bit, and is the advocate for children who and families who don't get hurt as much. And you know, people are starting to hear what I'm talking about and what I'm doing, and they're listening. And it's been a great journey for me to actually, you know, to be part of that conversation as well.
Excuse me while random light appears on my screen.
Yes, I saw
that. Oh God, that's so embarrassing. Let me just switch cameras. This is for everyone watching. It could be spirit. It could be a lot of people logging off the internet at school time. Is just the end of school. Let me just switch to another camera. Just give me a sec. So it's not as clear, but I'm laughing because we're talking about seeing life from a different point of view. Don't let technology be too.
Perfect.
But yeah, what was I gonna say? Yeah, that you just seem to have a very different. You're coming from a very different place, and what I actually thought was quite funny is when you said you're not afraid to shake things up, because having been around some children with special needs, I think they're not afraid to shake things up. And actually, when I look at their numbers or their palms or whatever, you know, with their, you know, parents there and that kind of thing, you know, they have come here to change things. And they are the canaries in the gold mine who are saying, there's gas, it stinks here, get me out. Improve your air quality, improve your thinking and vibration. So
yeah,
maybe that's another thing you have in common is, yeah, you're not afraid to, as I call them, jiggle the jelly beans. You know, I think of the human body is like this jar, and the brain's like this, you know, the skull and the brain, it's like this jar of jelly beans, and they're not afraid to jiggle the jelly beans.
Yeah. But also, you know, they don't fit the mold, thank goodness. And neither do I. And
they're not moldy. They're fresh.
No. And that's so good. It's being true to yourself, being true to your mold is what makes you unique. And that's
I just keep seeing like your own strain of divine bacteria. So funny. Maybe we'll make it like friendly gut bacteria rather than gross bacteria. Anyway, yeah, just growing into your true like little tenderly self.
Yeah.
Staying in your petri dish.
Yeah.
So, how can people contact you? Are you launching anything? You've got something coming up?
Yeah, look, I'm just launching my own programs at the moment. So I've got a team of people that work with me now, which is amazing.
I think you've always had a bit of a team, just to be honest. Maybe they weren't visible until now. No, they've all put on their human suits now.
Yes, exactly right. I've got an incredible team of women at the moment who are highly creative, skilled, experienced, and so starting to develop programs where children can access education through creativity, so through art and music at the moment, and also myself, and the way that I teach is also tapping into that.
So do you have a website
Yeah, so I've got my website, holisticteacher.net.au. I have social media, and I regularly post on there, just to help educate parents as well on some of the activities that you could do, some of the skills that I target. And yeah, so that's what we're in the process of building at the moment, and working as a team. So I lead my staff into the child's education. So it's very much a team of people basically who are invested in a child's education and development. So it's quite a powerful model.
Yeah, well, everyone knows that if you want to beat the odds, you have to tip the numbers in your favour. And I love this idea of the team behind the child. Can I ask you a strange question before we close up? Do a lot of people laugh when they're with you? Do the children laugh a lot?
Oh yeah.
Because just all around your room, I can see all the like remnants of like laughing. It's just like there's those little giggle, like giggle fairies in your room.
It could also be me.
You could be like you could be the chief giggle fairy. Maybe, well, they say, my last interview was with my comedy teacher, and we'll just mention that the fastest way to learn is through that open heart, that light heart, that actually laughing opens everything up, and then we just assimilate almost immediately, whatever the lesson is, and we really just get it. It's a really high vibration place to come from. And I just saw these sort of little giggle fairies in your background, which was a little different. I like it, and kind of, it's almost like when I talk to you, I feel like I'm talking to someone out of one of my children's storybooks when I was little. You know how you got those books and you always just wish you could sort of meet someone nice, and there'd be like always this nice person that the main protagonist would meet, and they would tell them all their problems, and then they would go sit on a mushroom or something. I feel a little bit like that's you.
Oh, that's lovely. I like that.
No, I feel like I need to send you like a toadstool or like something now. We've actually got lots of things like that. I think one of my children may actually be a human-sized garden gnome. My little Charlie's got a little rosy nose and rosy cheeks, and he loves to be dirty. He's the earth element. Well, Sarah, that was really interesting, and hopefully the people watching will really feel something there, and contact you, or even just contact that part of themselves that needs more of a giggle fairy.
Yeah. Oh, I'm happy to chat to people. More than happy to chat to people.
Yeah. Well, I'm really pleased we could have this connection. So I'm just going to say bye now. And just, thank you to everyone watching, and thank you to you. And I hope this gets to all the right people in all the right ways. So we'll see you really, really soon.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.